Welcome to Lesson 4. In this module, we'll look at the subjects of ethics and leadership. In this opening lecture, we'll take up the subject of ethics and try to gain a basic understanding of it. We'll look at what ethics is and why we need it. We'll consider what it does for us in our lives, and this should enable us to see why we need ethics to guide us in the businesses that we run. We take up the subject of ethics prior to leadership because conceptually it comes first. Ethics deals with us, the individual, with how we make decisions and what we regard as right or wrong. Leadership, on the other hand, deals with other people. It is a process of persuading others towards a common goal. As such, leadership exists only in relation to other people. Without others, there's no capacity to be a leader. While ethics can and often does include others, it is fundamentally about ourselves. It is a profoundly personal subject encompassing how we live, how we make choices, where we find meaning, and how to gain a purposeful life. Leadership guru Brian Tracy recognizes the foundations of ethics in business leadership when he says, quote, "The most important and valuable work you will do is thinking. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your choices and decisions. The quality of your decisions, in turn, determines the quality of your actions. The quality of your actions determines the quality of your results, and the quality of your results determines almost everything that happens to you, especially in business." In this way, what we need fundamentally to become more ethical individuals is thinking in a deep and meaningful way about ourselves, including how we should live, what we should stand for, whom we should listen to, and what we should try to achieve in our life. This is necessary not just for becoming a good leader, as Tracy explains, but for developing a good character and for becoming a happy, successful person. This is because happiness and a meaningful life do not just happen to us. No one has ever obtained happiness by accident or coincidence. It's not something you stumble upon. Happiness is something you earn, and one has to do a lot to achieve it. To name just a few things, one needs to develop interests, gain a sense of purpose, gain self-esteem, develop one's creative and intellectual powers. One needs to develop and maintain healthy, enjoyable relationships, including with oneself. One needs to form long-term goals, maintain bodily health, psychological health, spiritual health, and the list goes on. Ethics helps us do all this. For the person who has thought through and developed the code of ethics he will live by, he will find that it will guide him in the pursuit of his values. It will give his life tremendous meaning and inner satisfaction, and it will provide him with the knowledge and confidence that what he is doing is right and good. This alone will help him to stand up to great majorities and powerful people with whom he may disagree. It will also help him to deal with the adversity and misfortune that we all encounter in life. You are in a powerful position when you have a valid code of ethics because you know you are on the side of truth, justice, and the good. Ethics is a set of moral values and principles a person uses to guide them throughout the whole of their life. The code of ethics you adopt to guide your life is like the blueprints of a skyscraper. You might get help drawing up these plans, but ultimately you must be able to read and understand them because they are blueprints for a building you are going to build. These blueprints will help give you guidance in what materials to use, in how to secure your foundation, and what type of support you'll need for each level you rise. It will also show you what your final product will look like when it's achieved, but it will not make your decisions for you. It will not tell you day to day how to live. You have to continually choose to think in a moral way and let your decisions be guided by your ethical code, often in the face of temptation and social pressure to compromise. The ethical code you embrace cannot be chosen at random because ethics is not subjective. Human beings have a certain nature with certain needs in the same way that a building has a nature with certain requirements. If you adopt the wrong ethics or pretend you don't need ethics, it can have a significant negative impact on your life, in the same way that constructing a building while ignoring the principles of architecture and engineering can significantly impact a building. Following a well-chosen ethical code will take you a long way towards achieving your goals and building great things in your life. An unethical approach to living, or just as bad, an amoral approach to living, means that one builds one's life at random, feeling one's way through what might work, and changing one's convictions at the slightest sense of fear, uncertainty, temptation, or social pressure. Because such people have no real firm convictions, but attempt to use their feelings to guide them, they feel the impulse to change their philosophies frequently to fit in with the crowd, make more money, line up with authority, or do anything that might seem beneficial from their short-term perspective. Such a policy can only lead to misfortune, however. If one wants to build something great, one needs to have a plan, whether it is a building that will last 100 years or a human life that will last 100 years. Ethics is that most fundamental of plans a person needs, the foundation that will dictate how the rest of his life will turn out. Unfortunately, many people do not recognize this, and it leads them to relegate ethics to a position disconnected from everyday life. They believe that ethics enters the picture only infrequently, and that either their instincts or their upbringing alone will be sufficient to help them deal with these rare ethical encounters. Nothing could be further from the truth. Ethical choices do not arise only in one's leisure time, just on Sundays, only when others are looking, or just in emergency situations. Ethics is all around us. Nearly every one of our choices is ethical. We often don't see it this way because we're often unaware of how responsible we are for our own character and well-being. Just as our smallest choices affect our bodily health, with bad choices causing disease, obesity, and fatigue over the long run, the smallest moral choices also shape our character and play a role in our development. Choosing not to think through issues but relying on others consistently will lead to dependence, uncertainty, lack of self-confidence. Choosing not to think, but instead to drift through school and life purposelessly, will equally lead to a feeling of meaninglessness and a lack of control in one's life. As philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche writes, quote, "He who wishes to cure his soul must also consider making changes to the very pettiest of his habits. Many a man curses his environment 10 times a day and pays little heed to the fact that after a few years he has created for himself a law of habit which causes him to put his environment out of temper 10 times a day. But he can also acquire a habit of conferring a benefit upon it 10 times a day." Unquote. Every opportunity one has to think, and every decision one has to make contributes in some way towards who we are and who we will become. In this way, all such actions can be seen as moral or ethical. Recognizing this is the first step to becoming a more ethical person and achieving the benefits of an ethical life: happiness, well-being, and self-esteem. In the next video, we will look closer at how our ethical choices create our character and shape who we are to become.